I read an article the other day that actually made me stop mid-scroll and really had me thinking about it for a minute. And my first immediate thought was, why are we all so focused on Instagram? Why are we all spending so much time chasing likes, views, and stories that disappear within 24 hours when there's something much, much bigger happening on YouTube? Hi, my name is Jessica. I'm the content maven. I'm a content creator who creates a lot of content, drives a lot of traffic, and loves to talk all things marketing. And today, we're talking about YouTube. But first, let's get some coffee. Okay. So I saw an article the other day about how big brands are starting to really pay attention to YouTube, and they are treating it more like TV and not like social media or online content. Actual TV. Remember the days when we had cable? You're all not gonna remember that. That's fine. Some of you will. But once you understand what's going on with this pivot, even though it has been pivoting for a while, it will kind of start to change how you think about where you should be spending your time as a content creator and as a business owner. You don't have to be a big brand for this to apply, but it is important to pay attention to the shift and where big brands are starting to put their money. For a long time, YouTube had a complicated problem with the advertising side of the business. Even though more and more people are watching YouTube on their living rooms and on their TVs, advertisers and agencies have still been classifying YouTube as online content or as social media, which means it lived in a completely different budget category when it came to advertising for these large businesses. Not that they weren't spending money on advertising on YouTube, but since they weren't viewing it as their advertising TV budget, the amount of money that they were spending was significantly less on YouTube than it was elsewhere. And that matters more than people realize, because TV advertising is a massive industry. Global TV ad spending is expected to reach upwards of $167 billion in 2026 alone. When YouTube gets categorized as just social, then it gets locked out of a huge chunk of that money, even though viewing behavior looks very similar to that of those who are viewing TV. But that wall is starting to crack. New studies are showing that advertisers are starting to shift how they think about YouTube, especially when it comes to spending their ad dollars. A survey of social media agency professionals in the US and in the UK found that a majority of agencies are planning to include YouTube in their connected TV ad buys. Even more said that they plan to use YouTube in a larger way when it comes to their TV campaigns, and they're expecting to use it more than they did in previous years. And that's a really big deal. Another study looked at the actual ad spending data and found that about 2/3 of YouTube campaigns in late 2025 were attributed to TV screens. This means that people were not watching on their phones. They weren't scrolling. They were actually sitting down and watching YouTube in the same similar way that they would sit down and watch TV. And brands are starting to pay attention to that, and it's showing up in big moves. YouTube has even agreed to stream the Oscars in 2029. That alone should tell you how serious this platform is being taken. Google's president of the Americas summed it up with a quote that really struck me. I'm paraphrasing, but he said that in this era of entertainment, YouTube is a brand's best bet for staying relevant. YouTube has original content that viewers love. It has an audience that has built trust over a long period of time. There are tons of trusted creators who are driving content forward in all different areas and in all different niches. And these are things that advertisers can't find anywhere else, not in this way. And honestly, that tracks. Now, I want to be clear because YouTube and TV are not exactly the same. It's not a perfect comparison. A lot of user-generated content that's created for YouTube is not the same quality that you would find on TV. And there are a lot of people in the traditional TV world who are quick to point out that these two topics that we're talking about, TV versus YouTube, still reach completely different groups, and that they're for completely different advertisers for different purposes. They're not totally wrong, but that's beside the point for me. What matters is the mindset shift, and if you are a small business owner or a content creator, it matters to pay attention to it. The fact that brands are willing to invest long-term money into YouTube tells us something about how content works and is working now. They're not just chasing quick attention. They're investing in platforms where people actually sit, watch, and stay. And that's where I think that this matters so much for small business owners and content creators. Most of us have been conditioned to think and to believe that Instagram is where we are meant to be if you are building a business online. And hear me straight, I'm not saying don't be on Instagram. I love Instagram. I have accounts on Instagram and I use it all the time. But we are conditioned to think that if we are not constantly posting, then we are falling behind. And the algorithms on Instagram communicate that, frankly. We're conditioned to think that reach is everything. But here's the problem. Instagram content is incredibly temporary. Even your best performing post has a very short lifespan. YouTube just works differently. A video that you post today on YouTube can still work to bring in leads and views and traffic days, weeks, months, even years later. How many times have you thought, man, I wish I would have designed just a crackling fireplace and started a YouTube channel about that 10 years ago and just let it run? Because those are still bringing in a lot of traffic for the content creators who created those. Go look at them. Some of them were 10 years ago, and they're still generating millions of views. YouTube's content doesn't disappear. It doesn't rely on you being online every day, and it keeps working when you log off. And that's why I think that creators really need to start focusing more on long form video and having a presence on YouTube where your content can work harder for you. It doesn't mean that you need a fancy setup. It doesn't mean that you need to be cinematic or perfect or spend all this money to have all the tools and do all the things. You're gonna see content creators on YouTube who have all of that, but they've likely been doing this for over a decade. What you really need to do is shift your mindset from, I need to post something today, to I need to create something that is going to last and that is going to help my audience long term. When you start thinking about YouTube this way, it stops feeling intimidating and starts feeling really strategic. Plus, you can record one solid video and then turn it into clips for Instagram, Pinterest, for a blog post. And you could let that one piece of content do more for you and work harder for you than a dozen throwaway posts ever could. The goal isn't to be everywhere all the time. I know it feels like that. There's all these platforms and you see people that are having a lot of success on all of the platforms and you feel like, I'm not having success on any of these. But what if the goal was to build systems where your content supports your life and not the other way around? I think what excites me the most about this YouTube as TV conversation is that ultimately it's giving content creators and small business owners permission to breathe and permission to slow down and to think about the content that you really want to create for your audience, because your audience is on YouTube. It's giving you permission to stop chasing every trend and to stop feeling like if you don't post today, your whole business is going to fall apart and you won't get any more leads. Because even the biggest players in the world are not thinking that way. They are investing in platforms that reward consistency, depth, and attention. So if you've been feeling burnt out on social media, or if you're feeling like your content disappears as fast as you create it, maybe this is your sign to stop, slow down, and to refocus your energy. Instead of asking, how do I get more likes? How do I get more views? Try asking, how do I create content that is going to keep working for me 6 months from now? For me, this article was a reminder that video is not just a trend. And I will link to it in the description below so you can form your own opinion and see exactly what I'm talking about. But this really is a long-term strategy. YouTube isn't just another social media platform. It's becoming a place where real visibility and real growth can happen. And it's already happened for a lot of content creators. But it's not too late for you to jump in, because things are pivoting just a little bit as more and more business owners are realizing that this is the place to be. This is where content should be living and where it gets more attention and where it's growing long term. And we can see that by where they're putting their money. Honestly, this feels like good news. At the end of the day, this entire shift is just a reminder that we don't have to spend our time on platforms that demand constant attention just to stay visible. If YouTube is being treated like TV by really large brands, then that should just tell us where the real staying power is. We get to choose content that lasts, content that keeps working when we're offline, and strategies that support our lives instead of consuming them. And maybe that's the bigger takeaway here. It's not about being everywhere or doing more. It's about being intentional about where we show up and creating content that actually earns its place in our businesses. You can do it. Go for it. See you next time.